Well, our guests are still with us, and Maria Steer, I might come to yourself first. A lot of the debate around this proposed amendment has been around disabilities, as we see there, and carers' rights. But of course, the whole reason, or one of the reasons the Yes side said that they wanted to put forward this amendment is to remove what they say is the outdated language around women's place in the home. Now, if there is a no vote, do you not think that sends a message to our young girls out there that a woman's place is in the home, that they are expected to handle the burden of care going forward?
I think many people have spoken about that, how it is not the case that the Constitution, Article 41.2, says that a woman's place is in the home. It is true to say that the government describes this as outdated, but I fail to see how something that reflects the lived reality of women in Ireland today can be described as outdated, because the reality is that the majority of women do the majority of the work in the home. Now, if the Taoiseach and the government wants to frame this as an old Ireland versus new Ireland conflict, then that is fine by me. The Taoiseach represents old Ireland. He's been in politics since I was in primary school in the 1980s. He has never done anything to make it easier for mothers to stay at home with their babies and children. On the contrary, he was part of the government that brought in tax individualisation, which forced many mothers back into the workplace and made it all but impossible for parents to raise their children on one income.
Okay,
that double income model.
Sorry, no, I will let the Taoiseach respond to that in a second. But just to my question about the signal that this sends to young girls, because you're saying that it reflects the reality of Ireland as it is at the moment, that women are carrying the burden of care in the home. Well, is this not aspiring to change that reality, and also to reflect the reality that there are very many men and fathers who are also caring in the home, who don't have any constitutional protection at the moment to protect their caring in the home? I'm
a mother of 2 daughters myself, and for my daughter's sake, I want to retain this. I'm asking people to vote no. Mothers shed their blood. We go through a kind of exquisite agony to bring our children into the world that no man will ever experience. And this is a noble and an honourable thing, and it deserves to be acknowledged with gratitude in our Constitution, the sacrifices that women make. And at the moment it is. But the Taoiseach and the government want to take that gratitude out of the Constitution, and they want to take the onus that it puts on them to strive to support women who want to stay with their babies for those few short years that we have them.
I was very struck with what Lindsay said there, who's caring for Jack. And she said, towards the end of that piece, that her husband does as much care for Jack as she does, and she said that in the context of wanting that recognised in the Constitution, which is what the amendment does. It recognises the unique bond within a family unit that enables and it facilitates care between everybody in the family, and it's gender neutral. I think that is important. I think there's 2 aspects to this. A woman's life, which is how the Constitution puts it, a woman's life in the home. But in my view, a woman's life should be wherever that woman wants her life to be. It's a woman's choice. We shouldn't be sort of creating the view that her duties are in the home. But what you're doing here
is taking away the protection, is what Maria Steen says. You're taking away the protection to the woman's...
No, we're not, actually. Not at all. I think what we're essentially saying is first of all, recognising and saying to younger women in society today, that your role is not one that has to be confined to the home, or that should necessarily be confined to the home. You have a choice in that respect. Women excel in sport, culture, the arts, in politics and business.
I want to move on to the care aspect of it. By the way, it's not the
government alone.
All right, I understand.
I'm really at a good time, but I mean,
we'll make sure the time is even.
30 years people
Maria, I want to ask you about the care aspect of this, and the reference to what Lindsay had to say there, which is that she expects that this will help in terms of supports for her as well, because she's getting recognition for the care that she's doing.
I'm with Senator Tom Clonan and Flack and the Irish Council for Civil Liberties on this. Tom Clonan has called this a slap in the face for carers and for people with disabilities, and I agree with him. The government has chosen to spend 23 million running this referendum. They could have built a respite centre in Monaghan for the children and parents that have no service there, but instead they've chosen to spend it on a political virtue signalling exercise that will allow them to take videos from Dublin Castle and post them on X and Twitter and TikTok to celebrate if this goes through. But the following day, the carers will still have no respite. people with disabilities, adults with disabilities, still won't be able to live independently. Mothers will still have all their chores, but they will have no constitutional recognition.
And it is true, isn't it, thought that there is no obligation in this amendment on the government to provide for carers. In fact, there was an option suggested by the Citizens' Assembly which would have said that that would oblige the state to take reasonable measures to support care within the home and the wider community. You didn't go for that. You went for strive. It's much too weak, isn't it? A much watered down version.
No, I mean, I think the word, first of all, the chairperson of the Referendum Commission has said it's quite a strong word. And the government will have
it's not obliges.
to make it. No, I mean, there will be an obligation on the state. But again...
There won't be an obligation on the state.
Well, I think there's still... I mean, when you have to strive, there will be a measure. It will be determined by the courts if a specific case goes before the court. But one important point is this, in terms of the question that you've put. It has always been the case that the Oireachtas and the government of the day must decide on the allocation of resources and prioritising. So, for example, in this government, Mary Butler decided to prioritise dementia care. And by any objective assessment, and people in that field will acknowledge this, she's made a discernible change. We now have 52 dementia care centres in the country.
But in terms of this amendment, what campaigners are saying who are against this, campaignners and disability advocates, some are in favour, but those who are against are saying that that the word obligation, because it's not there, it could have been in there with reasonable grounds.
But the issue being that it's in terms of the separation of powers, the people elect their public representatives to government and to Parliament. On prioritisation and so on, and of resources. So like 25% of the education budget goes to special education now. 25 years ago, that was not the case. So progress has been made, but we need to make an awful lot more. But the fundamental point is the Constitution is a general framework. It doesn't specify in every single area where resources go to that aspect. Because enormous parts of the budget are part of care.
All right.
And the government of the day has to prioritise that.
We'll leave it there. Thank you. Now, earlier today, Prime Time's Conor Wilson spoke